have three awesome Patriots Bruins writers here. We've got Fluto Shinzawa, who writes for the Boston Globe for the Boston Bruins. Really excited to have him here. And then we've got two Patriots writers, Glennon and Erik Frenz, here writing about their books about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Usually if we're doing a book signing, in the middle of the year, summer, spring, slower time, we like to set up a large space where we have room for the authors to come and talk a little bit about their book, a little bit about their research and their work. This time of year, it doesn't quite lend itself to that, but there's still a lot of value of having those authors come. So what we do is we just basically provide a reduced focus where the authors come, we place them front and center right near the front of our store so that as people are coming in, they can see them, engage with them, talk with them on a more one-on-one level as opposed to having them address an entire crowd. So it's similar to the other formats that we've done, just on kind of a reduced scale. It's not often so focused on sports. We have done it once or twice with a young adult fiction focus. We did once last year, and it went really well. And so when we saw how well that went and how having a number of authors from one genre come and talk drew such a large crowd to hear, some people who were fans of one author but maybe had never heard of the other two. It was really successful, and it was something that we wanted to do going forward. And so we had this opportunity to bring three sports writers in and felt we should jump at the chance. My time here made a lot of contacts in the publishing industry, and one of my contacts out at Triumph Publishers, which is the publisher that handles all three of the authors, reached out to us about them being in the area. They have their books out, especially with the Patriots, as always, doing very well in the start of the Boston Bruins season. It seemed appropriate for us to try to do something. Makes a great gift. So she reached out to me, asked if it was something we were interested in, and we found a time that we could make it work. It's a busy weekend, but that can also be very fun. There's a lot of traffic coming in. These are well-known names in the sports community, so people see that and they go, hey, that's great, I'm going to come out here. It's also great for us to bring them here because they work up in Boston. A lot of things happen in Boston or out in Western Massachusetts. Two of the authors here with us today are from the western part of the state. And so to get them kind of over here and to get them into our community is really exciting as well. So, we're very grateful for the opportunity to provide that and to have our customers be able to come in and meet some folks that, they might see on TV or hear on the radio, but not ever get a chance to actually meet face to face.
Well, this is my third signing of my book, The Big 50. Hopefully a lot of people will be here. I'll be happy to say hello and sign their books, and away we go. So what it is it's a top 50 list of not just players, but coaches, managers, owners, overall moments in the history of the Boston Bruins. So as sports fans, I think we all like lists for whatever reason. They just we find them appealing. 10 best players, 20 best games. So this is that list of the history of the Bruins since 1924. I think with the Bruins, it's pretty easy to come up with number one on that list just because of what Bobby Orr has done for not just the team, but for the sport. We still haven't seen a defenseman like that in the history of the game. But after that, I think the challenge was to come up with 49 other players or moments or teams and put them in some kind of order, a ranking order, 1 through 50. So that was the challenge for me, to put them in the relevant order that I thought. It's subjective. My list is probably different than anybody else's list, but that was the fun part. Some of it was, I wouldn't say second nature, but easy, because I've covered the team since 2006. So I have a general understanding of how, especially from that era, what the Bruins have been like and what some of the more important moments and players have been. But before that, the history part was something that I really needed some legwork on. So there have been a couple of resources that were important for me in terms of books, references, media guides, websites, publications, whether magazines. So those have been helpful, and then interviews with people who have been there, who have seen that kind of history. Harry Sinden, the former general manager, was a great resource for me to explain some of his thinking and what took place for him when he was following it, and he could remember back even further from when he was there too. So it's a collection of things, personal knowledge, references like Harry Sinden and former players and former coaches, and then just reading. That's the most important part as a reporter, is to read as much as possible, so it served me well. one story I can remember is interviewing Mike Milbury for the book on the phone. I was at a conference at MIT where this was a statistical conference, and then here we are. He's just telling me stories that I just can't repeat just because they're so profane and colorful, and they're hilarious, of course, but that's the way the game and the sport was back when Mike Milbury was playing. This was the 60s, the 70s. It was just a different time of athlete and sport and team. So it was terrific for me. While I couldn't use most of the material that Mike was giving me for the book, it was engaging for me to get a look inside what life was like for them. So in other ways, you can kind of convey what that meaning was like for readers to kind of impart what that time was. So that part for me was probably, if I can look back at how this book came together, that was probably the most fun. I'm on Twitter at Globe Fluto. I'm also on Facebook promoting this book, and then I'm in the Boston Globe just about every day. The Sunday Notes, that's probably the biggest investment for me in terms of writing. That comes out every Sunday in the Boston Globe, so I hope readers can see me there.
So I'm here to sign copies of my book, Bill Belichick versus the NFL, Case for the NFL's Greatest Coach, and worked on it at the beginning of the year for roughly 4 months, from January to April, and then during the summer I copy edited the book, and it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun to do, and I'm excited to be here to talk about it with some people. The title of the book is very, very straightforward. It's Bill Belichick versus the NFL, the case for the NFL's greatest coach. It really just makes the case for why Bill Belichick is the best head coach to ever coach in the NFL relative to his peers, contemporaries, and historically, guys like Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, Bill Walsh, Bill Parcells all get mentioned in the book, and in my opinion, he's better than all of them. I think the thing that sets him apart from other coaches, historically speaking, is just the rules that have changed to kind of prevent teams from being successful over a long period of time. You know, because back when I was younger, it was the Dallas Cowboys in the early 90s. They won the 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and they were the dynasty of that era. And then you had before that, it was the San Francisco 49ers. They were a dynasty, but really ever since the dawn of free agency, it's been almost impossible for a team to sustain success for as long as the Patriots have, and to play as well as the Patriots have for such a long time. It's a testament to Bill Belichick's ability to adapt and to find players who can help contribute every single year. One of the hallmark characteristics of his ability as a head coach is that he deals with adversity better than any of them, and I think, you know, it seems like every year they lose Rob Gronkowski for a long stretch of time, and it's always a question of whether or not they'll be able to fill that hole or whether they'll be able to replace that production, and the answer is usually yes. You know, that loss has prevented them from going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl a couple of times, but they're always very successful. They're always in the mix, and testament to Bill Belichick's ability to adapt. I think it's his dad being in the Navy and being the head coach of the Navy football team, and he had a very regimented life from a very young age, and that very much played into his coaching style. He's very regimented, he's very detail-oriented, and you know, there's a story that I tell in the book about how when he was very young, Bill Belichick knew that he wanted to go to a college in the Northeast because he knew that's where all the best colleges were, and that is just quintessential Bill Belichick, ready for anything and always preparing and always knowing the smallest details. That's just Bill Belichick in a nutshell. I hope they enjoy the book, if nothing else. You don't have to agree with everything that I say. If it starts a conversation, I think that's really the goal. Well, I'm on Twitter at Erik Frenz. It's ErikFrenz, and that's where I locate all of my stuff. So you can find me there and find all my ideas and thoughts there as well.
My book is it's effectively a book-length argument for Brady as the greatest quarterback ever to play the pro game. And I say, these days, when I say that, I point out that this is the second edition of a book that originally was published in 2012, and it wasn't such a settled question at that point. Now it's hard nowadays to find someone, at least around here, to give you who's going to give you an argument on that point. But in 2012, there was still some doubters. I think, you know, differentiate from other great quarterbacks is a tough thing because they tend to share a lot of traits, right? But Brady, what sort of puts him at the top of the heap, I think, you know, we can talk about physical ability, and that's there, and that's sort of hard to miss. But it's really it's the things that fans in New England know about Brady that maybe not everyone does. That, you know, that sort of that incredible work ethic, and more than anything, I think an intelligence for the game, ability to identify what's happening on the other side of the ball almost without exception, so that he knows on every play where he needs to put the ball so that his teammate is going to get it and somebody else isn't, and they're going to make, they're going to get the most out of that. And then there's just that sort of drive to win that we see from this guy over and over again. It's why he's at the sort of the top of the leaderboard for fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. When the game is on the line, he plays his best football, and not like this season or in 2001, but across the breadth of a 15-year career. That's a pretty rare and exceptional thing. I will say that my book is not a biography, so that you won't read a lot about that in there. There's a chapter that sort of covers that stuff. Charlie Pierce wrote an amazing book, many years ago called "Moving the Chains." It was a biography of him. So what I know about Brady's upbringing really comes from that book, it seems like that sort of spirit of competitiveness was infused in him and his siblings from a very young age, and you see it. Here's a guy who, and I think this is essential for all sort of great professional athletes, and you hear it from people who have been successful in the NFL time and time again, that sort of need to win, that need to prove again and again that you're better than the other guys. It sort of brings him along, sort of motivates him. That is the reason that he's at the stadium early and leaves late, and the reason that at age 39, with 4 Super Bowl rings and 6 Super Bowl appearances and all these records that a lot of people would say, okay, I've proven myself. He's still out there every week trying to prove himself, and I think it does go back to that sort of upbringing and that competitive nature. This level of success over this period of time, it's not been done before, certainly in the salary cap era of the NFL, and arguably not at all. It's very unlikely ever to happen again. And one hopes that football fans in New England sort of appreciate what they're seeing as they're seeing it. I agree with Erik's contention that Belichick is the greatest coach ever, and obviously mine is that Brady is the greatest quarterback ever. That's not a thing that just sort of that just sort of happens, or that you can expect after Brady retires for the next greatest quarterback to land in New England with the same coach, or the next great coach to come along. It's a special set of circumstances, and hopefully people are enjoying it, because it's. As much as Tom Brady likes to talk about playing to age 45 or whatever, this thing is almost over. People need to understand that and appreciate it while they can. Yeah, people can find me online. I'm at SeanGlennon.com, and find me on Twitter. Again, my name is my handle, anyone who reaches out to me will hear back. Having an event like tonight where I get to meet a couple of other authors is interesting for me, because I don't do a lot of that. And so particularly, Erik Frenz is someone who I know I have an online relationship with, but I'm meeting him here tonight for the first time. And Fluto is obviously a very, very accomplished journalist, and so it's good to meet him, and I'll see what both of them have to say about the process of writing. Meeting the fans, particularly Patriots fans who always have something interesting to say, having those kind of conversations, it does inform my writing, because it lets me know what's on people's minds, and really effective writing is knowing how to speak to your audience, and the only way to do that is to get out and meet people.
It's certainly a humbling process as a writer, just because as a newspaper writer, I'm part of a bigger thing. I'm doing my small part in a whole hundreds of other writers and editors, and you're part of a whole grand team. But then with a book, it's you're out there on your own. So that's been neat for me to see, and it's been humbling just to see people react to what is a singular piece of work of mine. So that's been very rewarding to interact with readers. As far as other writers, it's the same thing. These are people that work hard and that have done something right and put together a product that I'm sure they're very proud of and their readers enjoy. So it's always engaging for me to meet other writers.
I think having those peers to bounce ideas off of and to talk about what works and what doesn't work is always very helpful. And talking to people who have read the book and getting their experiences as well, I think it's been very helpful to me as a writer to hear that feedback and to know what worked and what didn't work.
I think in general, when it comes to sports, especially the high level professional sports like we see with the Bruins, these are some of the most competitive people in the world. Of course, they need athletic skills, vision, speed, quickness, all that to be successful and to get to where they are. But I think what separates a lot of the great athletes from just the general ones is competitiveness. These are people that just love to win but really hate to lose more than that. So I think when you're seeing a whole collection of athletes like that, that's what makes it interesting for me. Then you get to see competitive games, competitive seasons, competitive players, and then out of that comes their stories of how they made it, what they did to succeed one player or one team over another. That's the part for me that is exciting.
I think just the highs and lows, really. You know, you can be riding high off the 3-game win streak, and then you lose one, and it's like, you know, the whole world is falling down, and you feel like you're never going to win again. But there's always a next week. There's always an opportunity to go out there and prove yourself and to redeem yourself if you didn't play well the previous week, or to continue to play well if you did play well the previous week. And I think that the individual stories in terms of playing well one week, not playing well another week, the individual stories are very interesting to me too, because you'll have a lot of redemption stories, players who don't do well one season and they come back and then they have a pretty marvelous season, or you'll have a guy who plays very well for a long period of time and he starts to lose it. And those are good stories, even though they're not necessarily happy stories to tell, they're good stories to tell.
We're right at the South Shore of Boston. It's one of the biggest sports towns in the country. Pretty much everybody I know, even the people who work here, and we're a literary crowd, are huge sports fans. So it was just an obvious in for us. It's something that I think a lot of people around here relate to. It's winter. A lot of people spend a lot of time, you know, listening to it on the radio or watching it on TV at home. So it makes a perfect tie-in to what we're doing here. Anything to deal with the Boston Bruins, the Patriots, the Celtics, they're going to go really well here. So we are excited to have them.
I don't know how other writers feel about it, but for me, I love interacting with readers, just because without readers, we're nothing. You know, there's no job for me. I'm out on the street if not for readers. So for that perspective, it's terrific for me. In terms of a larger effect on the community, and just from a writing perspective, I hope people appreciate writing and books and newspapers and magazines, whatever bookstores like this contain, just because I think it's enriching for you to be engaged in something like that, rather than just, I don't know, staring at your phone or watching TV or whatever you do to consume information or to be entertained. I think there's nothing greater than reading.